So once again, sorry, it's my doing that we have had a big gap. I mean, for the viewers also, I owe them an apology. Last 2-3 months, I got embroiled into some other project, which took away all my time, which is not a fair statement to make for this program. But I have limited capacity, and so this or that. Particularly, I will. I should not say I'm surprised. This has been going on for quite some time, but still I'm surprised. I was surprised that quite a few reached out saying why we have stopped it, and they like the format of discussion. Sometimes I have a couple of small little debates here and there. More importantly, taking a reasonably open mind. I'm underlining the word reasonably because all of us have our own convictions. It cannot be very. It's just not possible to be very open-minded because we have our conviction. It almost borders on sometimes bias, I would say. In spite of that, we try to keep it as open as possible and try to look at concepts from various angles. And at least you're making quite a lot of effort to say why you're saying what you're saying. What is the reason behind it? Which is very appealing. You're doing it in English. It reaches a lot of people and easily they are able to understand. And occasionally you're using PowerPoint to express certain concepts. That's very, very appealing to people. So you are really making an impact, in my view, in a significant portion of listeners who comment also, who ask also, etc. Of course, I won't be naive enough to say that we normally talk for 45 minutes at least. I won't naive enough to believe that people listen to all the 45 minutes. People quickly scan through a few minutes here, that's okay. That doesn't matter at all. But fact of the matter is, there is a segment of audience who are really looking forward to this. Somewhere between orthodox schools in various mathas with great scholars like Haridas Bhatt, etc., who's teaching in a very high level. I'm not even going to what they call as a graduation ceremony of Sudha Mangala, Nyaya Sudha, and all this stuff. I'm not even going there. Even at a moderate level, if I say, Haridas Bhatt comes to quite a reasonable low level to make people understand. I was really touched by many of his lectures. Very humble, he tries to make it easy for people. Even then is, in my view, very high. Because unless you understand a foundational concept of Tattva Vaada, going on reading text is meaningless, in my view. Simply saying, I've seen people put even board also in their house. Hari Sarvottama, Vai Jivottama, and all the stuff. It's good that they're doing, not that they're denying that. What does it really mean? If Hari Sarvottama, what does it really mean? What does it do? What does it mean to me in day to day? That is very, very important. And likewise, if you accept that, sorry, excuse me, if you go and accept the viewpoint that Hari is not only Sarvottama, Hari is the only valid, independent, real concept, entity. Yeah, everything else is not only secondary, it cannot be as real as Hari because everything is Anitya also, whereas Nitya is only a Hari. If you accept that, right, that is the starting point of his Tattva Sankhyanam, right? If you accept that, what do you mean? How do you lead your life? Right? So it's very important because if somebody is serious about realizing, ultimately every philosophical objective is to help you realize what he's trying to teach. Otherwise, what is the point in philosophy? If you're trying to realize Tattva, then you must connect it like this concept that. Yeah, Swatantram Aswatatam Dividam means what is that? You have to understand. You must connect it every day. It has an impact. If you sincerely accept Hari is the only Nitya Vastu, Hari is the only independent, the only thing to go after. And if Madhvacharya says Bhakti means unwavering emotion towards something in exclusion of everything else, he doesn't simply say unwavering devotion to himself, to Hari. He adds a caveat also, excluding everything else in the universe. That's what we read in Mahabharata Parnirnaya. He says that. Then what do I do with my TV, color TV? Right? What do I do with my family, my kids? What do I do? Do I love them? I don't love them. To what extent can I love them? And when and what way shall I exclude my color TV, my wife, my children in preference to Hari? Am I willing to walk that path? That is the test of commitment to Tattva Vaada philosophy, is my humble opinion. It's not easy, I understand. But how do we do that is the question. Everybody wants that. How do we do that is the question. That is where I think your lecture serves, in my view, it does a lot of help in trying to understand in a way which people want to understand. That's why I really like your conversations, and my apologies to you as well as countless others who are eagerly waiting for this. So we are continuing this. This month and weekend I'm coming to Bangalore. I can still do that. Since I'm going to be in Bangalore, instead of disturbing in the night, I can do it in the morning, convenient to you, so that we can still do it from Bangalore, and probably there could be a lot more lively interaction there. Yeah. And so without much ado, probably we left at somewhere you're trying to explain the ontology of Madhvacharya, his philosophy, and then trying to explain its relevance, etc. There we stop. So I leave you to continue from wherever you left. Thank you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Namo Ahilajnana Matadhvanta Divakaraha Jayatyamita Sajnana Sukhashakti Payonidhi Abhramam Bhangarahitam Ajalam Vimalam Sada Anandadirthamatulam Bhaje Tapatrayapaham Apadamauli Varyantam Gurunam Akritim Smaret Tena Vidna Pranashyante Siddhyanti Manorathaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om. Yes, we had stopped this thing at explaining some parts of the ontology earlier. So just to do a very quick recap, right? We first talked about the epistemology. We said that Veda is the primary source, but we also said that there is some basic given, okay, which is like which even the Veda cannot, or any Agama cannot override, and that is that of the Sakshi Anubhava. And with that as the epistemological thing, we said that, okay, now let's look at the ontology. Let's derive the ontology from these different sources. And based on that, Acharya has given quotes. Basically, he shows that, there has to be only exactly one and only one Swatantra. From a logical point of view, right, if there is zero Swatantra, then no action is possible. If there are too many Swatantras, then they are really not really Swatantra in the full sense of the word, because one will be limiting the other kind of thing. The way the country heads are Swatantra in their own domain, but they are not absolutely Swatantra, right? They cannot go into another person's this thing. So there are limitations in accepting that there are multiple Swatantras. There is also a problem in accepting that there are zero Swatantras. There is no, everybody is dependent. So that assumes that, in a deterministic world, if you assume a deterministic world, you will not be able to explain, why things come into contact and why things happen. If you admit a probabilistic world, yes, maybe, but if you assume that, there is a deterministic world, then you need to be able to explain as to why two dependents meet each other and help out each other to carry out certain tasks. So in an ontology, you definitely need to have exactly one Swatantra, and that is the point that is driven in the Tattva Sankhya Tika and the Tattva Viveka Tika. So logically, it comes to us that there has to be only one Swatantra, and Acharya says that the identity of that being is Vishnu, and he has given lots of quotes. Again, the epistemologically again, how will we determine who is the Swatantra? I mean, each of our individual experiences is that we are Aswatantra, but how do I determine that the other person is Swatantra? There is no way to determine that other than using Agama for that. So this is an important point. So the thing is, it is not a matter of inference, or it is not something that can be logically derived, saying that if X does this, then X is Swatantra, or if X does this, X is not Swatantra. It is impossible to do that. So Acharya says that, at least our own Aswatantra, basically our own dependence, is very clear when he says that, in whatever you have written in your background, right? Nahare paramo nahare sadrisha parama sarvajidatmagana. After that he says, basically, nitya sukham to khatam na bhavet. How if you are independent, forget influencing others, forget finishing other tasks, forget lifting govardhana or whatever it is. At the very basic, internally, you should be completely, continuously happy. Right? If that is not happening, I mean, if you are, and what is the meaning of Swatantriya then? I mean, what kind of independence are we talking about? If you cannot have continuous bliss yourself. So this is a very, biting logic, if you ask me, because it sets the context for everything else. So whoever claims to be God, whatever it is, Devata or Supreme God, whatever it is, they need to be able to at least have Nitya Sukha. That is the expectation. So, and therefore, Acharya shows that, for example, based on all the Shrutis and things like that, he says that is told to be Vishnu. Now, what we looked at last is how do we even know that there are other number of other deities, right? I mean, some people say there are 33 crore deities. Some people say there are 9. And some people say, no, it is some 3, Trimurti, all that kind of logic is there. And so all of these things are atindriya for us. They are not in the realm of our sensory objects. So the only way we can figure out whether there are deities or whether there are beings beyond our sensory realm or not, we can know that only through Agama. That's why we had to first establish what is meant by Sadagama. And then based on that, we say, okay, based on this Agama, we are trying to understand, we are trying to establish the ontology of this world. So there, and the reason for pointing this thing out repeatedly is that some people think that, we Madhvas, basically, we have devised this concept of Taratamya just out of blue or whatever it is kind of thing. But that is not right. What I will just show is that, Acharya has given, he's more careful than most of these secular people. And he's more careful in understanding the Shruti. And he's basically, eventually we will come to that point also as to, what are the rules of interpretation that he takes up and why he first lays out a framework which none of the other Bhashyakaras or none of the other systems have put in place. I mean, they all have, tried to maneuver around whichever problematic situation they come into when they are interpreting text. But only Acharya has laid out a framework to determine, to show how to interpret Shruti. And based on that framework, he says that, there are many other deities and there is a Taratamya between them. Now, what does Sarvottama mean? So, Sarvottama means, obviously supreme or, superior to everybody else, right? In what terms? I mean, for example, if I make, let's say, food better than everybody else, will I become Sarvottama? In what terms are we talking about Uttamatva, right? The superiority. So Acharya says that, I mean, that is also again based on quotes. Basically, it is for Jnana, Bala, Prakasha, Ojas, Tejas, Bala, Virya, all that kind of, there are infinite attributes. And we talked about, Vishnu having all of them in infinite magnitude, much more than any other, even infinite minds like Lakshmi can comprehend. So he says this thing in Bhagavata, right? Mai ananta gune gunato ananta vigraha. He says this. He says that in my vigraha itself, which is gunataha vigraha, there are infinite qualities, and each quality is again infinite. So based on this, that is the meaning of Sarvottama. He is infinite he has infinite qualities, and he has infinite, each quality is again infinite in them. And he has also infinite forms, and all names basically refer to him. And that is also told by, again, the Shruti itself, the Aitareya Brahmana, right? It very emphatically says, Sarve Rucha Prana Eva. He says that, and then they refer to him as the Prana there, and it gives the reference as basically all these riks, Sarve Rucha, Sarve Ghoshaha, everything, even a sound, whatever we are doing, whatever hum you can listen in the when you go near, or whatever the grand sound that you hear when you go near ocean, or the sound that a falling tree makes, okay, or even the sound that a lizard makes, the house lizard makes, all of that refers to Vishnu. And this is told, he tells this thing in Karma Nirnaya, and there are Vedic mantras which tell these things. So he is the only one who has actually brought in all those other mantras and tried to give one philosophy which will encompass both the Brahmana, mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. It's not like he has divided the scriptural text randomly based on, as Ata Tattva Vedaka, whichever is convenient to me is Tattva Vedaka, whichever is inconvenient to me is Atattva Vedaka. He doesn't do that. And wherever he has done saying that, this is a Mohaka text, this is a delusionary text or whatever it is, he has again used it based on another text which says that thing. Okay. For example, he has given quotes from Padma Purana and other Puranas which tell that, Vishnu does this thing, right? He will basically give these Mohaka acts. He will go and pray to Rudra. He will go and pray to other people. Okay. And he will sometimes act very weak. He will act as if he's being impacted by other these things. In fact, interestingly, Stephen Hawking, right, in his brief history of time, he mentions this thing, if there is something like super consciousness out there, right, whether we discover that or not is left to that. I mean, basically that super consciousness has to agree or, has to plan for us to know them. I mean, something like that he says that. I don't remember the exact words. But so what that means is, Swatantra can act in a manner where, his Swatantra, his independence is kind of not very obvious. So therefore, it is again not a matter of inference. You cannot say if X does this, then he is Aswatantra. The Agama has to tell. The Agama has to tell so and so is Swatantra, so and so is Aswatantra. So that is based on that kind of Agama. I will now share my screen. Please give me a minute. Yeah. So based on that kind of, we had talked about these as well. 1 minute. Yeah, here it is. So we talked about the Visheshas also there. That was more again from an ontology point of view. Let me come to this point here. I think this is where the main this one is, right? So Acharya says that basically Veda teaches us this, that there are multiple deities, and also the fact that there is Taratamya between them by showing defects that are present in one but absent in another, how one is an X is in the contour of Y. There are verses that to show these things. Okay. So for example, this one is very straightforward, right? Paro matraya tanva vradhana nate mahitvam anvashnuvanti. And then in a couple of lines later, it says, Nate Vishnu Jayamano Chatoha Deva Param Mahimna Param Antamapa. So basically, it says that, no Deva yet to be born or is born has or will achieve your supreme glory. So it is very clearly telling, setting Vishnu apart from the other Devatas. So this is a very clear indication of multiplicity and also difference between Vishnu and others. And then yo devanam namadha eka eva, very clear, right? One deva bears the names of all others. This is an important shruti because it says that, see, my name is right, whatever my parents have kept there. Your name is what this thing, right? I mean, we keep names are most of the times, naam or nishani kind of thing, right? They are meant for just as a pointer, right? I mean, for indicating somebody there. There is no sense to it. There is no meaning beyond it. You can have a person who is called Lakshmipati, but he is there like a beggar or a lot of poverty kind of thing, right? But the Veda, right? This is one of the first things, right? The deities' names, okay, are given again within the Veda itself based on certain quality. This is the basis of the Vedic Sanskrit, that the names there refer to certain qualities. So Vishnu refers to the quality of being pervasive. Pervasive in what sense? I mean, in what aspect? So we say it is space, time, and guna. Advaita says it is space, time, and vastu. That is the difference between how we see and then how Advaita sees that. But we say, so when we say Vishnu also has the name called Rudra, then it means that he is the person who is maximum capable of Rudratva. And what is that Rudratva? The capability to drive disease away. Rujam dravayati iti Rudra. Okay. The Veda also gives other names to these deities, but eventually the Veda very clearly says, look, all names eventually talk about, not eventually, primarily talk about Vishnu only. Okay. So that Sarve Rucha Prana Eva iti Vidyat. There are other such this one, right? Vedaishta Sarvair Ahameva Vedyah, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, there is no way to explain these things, okay, other than saying that all words indicate him, talk about his qualities. In fact, in the Mahabharata itself, right, in the Shanti Parva, there is one very clear, what do you call, discussion between Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna says, tell me the names of meanings of these names. So at that point, Krishna very clearly tells, look, all names mean me at the end of it. And that is because he has the quality that is indicated by that particular word, by that particular name. So whether it is Rudra, Brahma, Indra, or any of these things, they all indicate those qualities. Those qualities are present infinitely in Vishnu, and he is the only independent being who has them. So he is the primary referent of every word out there. Okay, so this is how Sarvashabda Vachyatva is told in Madhya Siddhanta. This is unlike what it is told in both Ramanuja and in Shankara Siddhanta. We will come to that thing some other time. I mean, my point here is to talk about the Tattva Vaada thing. The differences, I'll come to it little later. So here again, Vishnu is told to be different and superior to everybody else. Even this verse, right, which is generally the secular verse, right, Indram Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Look at that thing here, no? I mean, you're able to see the text, right? Okay, you are on mute. Yeah, see here, right? It says.
Since I'm coughing, I muted, but I can see the text. Yes.
Okay, so see here, right? It says Indram, Mitram, Varunam, Agnim, Ahuhu, Atho Divyaha sa Suparno Garutman, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, Agnim Yamam Matarishwanam Ahuhu. So it says that if people read this thing as the same one reality, one real entity is called as Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Agni, Suparna, Garutman, and Agni again, Yama and Matarishwa. So people take that there are all these deities are one and the same, right? All these are different aspects of the same deity. If they take like this, the next ones, the next shlokas that we are going to see, where it says that Agni, for example, does his work because he is afraid of Parabrahman. Bhayad Agnis Tapati. Taittiriya says this thing, right? So Agni burns out of fear. I mean, not out of respect for Parabrahman. So if both are one and the same, or if they are different aspects of the same being, why will this behavior is inexplicable? This particular aspect of fear is inexplicable. So therefore, the most natural explanation is that there are two beings. And very clearly here too, if this means that all devatas are one and the same, the repetition of Agni is superfluous here. Right? So therefore, we have to take that, okay. And also Ahuhu would be unnecessary. It has to just say that Indram Mitram it is only one Sat. Why should it say Vadanti? Why should it say Ahuhu? There is the indication for us that, basically these are qualities, these words, the qualities indicated by these words are there in that one Ekam Sat. And Ekam is not one again. Ekam is obviously, even if they had just said Sat, the same thing would have been evident, right? That they are talking about one real, because the Sat word means that. Or just saying Ekam would have been sufficient. But the point here is ekam means main, mukhya. The word ekam also has the meaning of mukhya. So that one primary real, primary independent entity, it has all these meanings which are indicated by those words. Then the word Agni, which is repeated twice, it indicates two different qualities, and therefore, the superfluousness is avoided. So here we are running into one interpretation, Shruti interpretation, which is that you should look, Shruti is being Apaurushaya, Veda being Apaurushaya, does not have the flaws of unnecessary repetition. See, when I say reply back, when I say respond back, right, there is superfluity of language there. I mean, ideally comprise of, you shouldn't be using that kind of stuff. Or, it is because the sense of back is already there when I say reply, right? Or even respond, or, repeat again. All these cases are there. So Shruti does not have these kind of flaws. So similarly, Shruti will not unnecessarily have, for example, instead of Agni, right, it had said Vakni. You can say that, these are two different names of the same person. It is like saying that, Rama, who the husband of Sita, that kind of stuff. They are two different qualifiers of the same being. But here it is just repeating the same word. So this is how Shruti teaches us as to how to interpret itself. It's some sort of communication system where you're also getting the passcode as to how to interpret the rest of the block, basically, right? And only Acharya points out this kind of stuff there. Okay, I mean, that is the main idea, right? I mean, his framework, whatever is there within the Veda itself. For example, the thing that most people have problem is with the fact that Acharya breaks up these words and then tries to give some vague meanings out of them. But that is told in the Shruti itself. Shruti itself says, Shatarchina, why is this supreme being called Shatarchi? Because he worshipped for, 100 years, or what he basically did something for 100 years. And therefore he is called Shatarchi. It basically says that every word has an etymological meaning. And that meaning is fulfilled to the maximum extent, to the infinite extent in Supreme Being. Therefore he is called by that particular word. Okay, let me go to the other things. Okay, it says that, for example, see here, right, it also points out deficiencies in other deities, okay, which is not told for Vishnu. For example, this particular thing, right, all these Natvetad anyo vishwa jatani parita babhuva, you are the one who controls everything that is born, very clearly. Okay, so it now, see, this is talking about this is reference to the Prajapati, the Brahma. It says that you are the Lord of everything that is born. What about the unborn? It doesn't say anything there. Basically, it is if that is an indirect, or actually it's a pretty decent signal that he does not lord over the unborn. And who is that unborn? Ajastyanaabhav adhyekamarpitam. The unborn's Nabhi has this particular thing on which all these worlds are hosted, or are situated. And the Purana tells us that it is none other than Vishnu. So this is, now what does the Shruti do? It is basically telling that Brahma is the Lord of everything that is born, and Vishnu is above that. If Brahma and Vishnu were the same, okay, then this line wouldn't have made sense. Okay, so when you go through this kind of stuff, right, or even look at this one now, Rudra is there, right? Na yasyendro varunona mitro vratam aryamana minanti rudraha naratayastamidam swasti huvedam savitaram namobhihi. Okay, here the sage is basically doing namaskara to the creator, Savitaram. Okay, many people think that Savitara means it refers only to Aditya, Surya. That is how Sayana, I think, refers to this one. But Aditya is told again in future verses, right, where he is under the control of the Supreme Being. Yo Aditya Tishtan Adityam Antaro Yamayati. Right, one who sits within the Aditya, and then he controls Aditya sitting internally. That Aditya is his Antaryami. So that is how the Shruti puts it, this thing. And but Sayana is not able to mix these two things and then see that why Here you need to interpret Savitaram differently. So Acharya says this Savitaram is basically a short form, or it is another meaning for Prasavitaram. Prasavitaram means creator. Prasavitru is creator. So see, he brings in consistency very clearly. Yeah, go ahead, please.
See, I mean, treating Savitaram as a Pravisitaram, is it not a stretch? I mean, because he wants to position Vishnu, so he's interpreting this word as Vishnu.
No. So 1 minute. Let's look at this thing, right? If let's say this, he's talking only about this one is talking about Surya here. So you have one sentence which says that Indra, Varuna, Mitra. Mitra is also one of the Suryas, by the way, one of the Adityas. Okay, and then Aryama. Aryama is also another Surya only. Aryama means Surya. So in the same line, you have a word which says that Aryama and Mitra do not understand Savitara. So one of them you have to give up. You have to say that one of them does not refer to the regular Surya. Yeah. So what will you do there? Which one will you take easily?
Well, since he is using Mitra as well as Aryama, both different aspects of Surya.
Both are different Suryas, let's say that also.
Yeah, I mean, either you are both are using the earlier definition which you gave, that everything in Vedas got some quality, it denotes a quality. I can reasonably conclude Mitra and Aryama is one aspect of different aspects of Surya. If that is the case, if permit me, if I take that line of argument, saying that the Mitra guy or the Aryama guy of Surya cannot understand what Surya is, because we all know very well, ear cannot define what I am, mouth cannot define what I am, but I can define what ear is, mouth is, etc. So
when you do that, you are admitting that there is a difference between I and this ear, I and this mouth.
Correct.
That is all you are saying here. So we are basically, when you are saying even this different aspects,
yeah,
you know that aspects of the same person, you are basically talking about Bheda only there. You are not really talking about any Abheda.
No, let's keep that aside.
You are using the word.
Let's keep that aside. Right now, your argument is because it is mentioned Mitra and Aryama, I'm assuming is Acharya's argument. Savitaram does not mean Surya, because we cannot say that this same entity does not understand itself. In my view, there is another way of interpreting. Instead of calling it as a false logic, I would say that another way of looking at it is like ear cannot define Padirao, eyes cannot define, but Padirao can define everything else. Therefore, Savita is the whole sun. Mitra and Aryama are different aspects of the sun.
No, I mean, you need to pay a little more attention to the Shruti there. The Shruti is very clearly telling that Aryama does not understand. Minanti means understand.
Correct.
Okay. So your example that, eyes do not define, that is kind of not what we are looking. We are looking at a different thing here. Can my eyes or not eyes, can X, if I say X does not understand Y, X has to be different from Y. That's all we are saying.
Not necessarily.
Then what is the other way?
That is what I'm trying to say. X cannot understand Y. If X is a subset of Y.
Oh, no. Why? So if X is basically, even if X is subset of Y, right? When you say subset, basically, does it partake its omniscience or not? We are not talking about, me and not understanding my shadow or me getting scared from my shadow kind of thing. We are talking about the being who is supposed to be omniscient.
Okay, let me restate if I understand you correctly. Logically, one can argue that if X is Y, a subset of Y, we can propose that Y can understand X, but X will not understand Y is logical. Just as I said, I can understand my eyes, ears, etc., but they cannot understand me. Is a very logical argument on theory.
No, there is.
Let me complete. However, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is, however, we are talking about Vishnutva, which means omnipresent, omnipotent. In which case, a part of it
is also omniscient.
Is also omnipresent, omniscient. In which case, the argument that if X is Y, a subset of Y, X cannot understand Y falls apart. Because X, no difference between X and Y is what you are doing.
We had even shown that thing using what do you call the when we talked about the Bhagavan and his guna and all those things and his other rupas.
Correct.
This is, neha nanasti kinchana, right? Evam dharman pratak pashyan anuvadhavati. That is how the Shruti tells this thing. Even if a person sees a small difference between him and his acts or his other qualities, they will fall. They will basically have negative, what do you call, influences.
I agree. That part I agree. But I'll tell you where I still find a little bit of a problem. I come back to the slide. That argument, I agree that inasmuch as Vishnu is omniscient, a part of Vishnu is also omniscient. Not only omniscient, it's infinite also. Therefore, there's no difference between part and the sum. In which case, vice versa, they should know is an argument which are acceptable. But coming to this specific verse of Rig Veda, this argument you can juxtapose only
after you have established. After you have established that they are all different.
Oh yeah, they are different. Vishnu is omniscient. All that is accepted, and then you are juxtaposing this only if you say Savitara means Vishnu, right?
No, we'll not talk about 1 minute. Let's first talk about there are 2 steps in which I will go this thing. Let's say I do not have any other Shruti also. Nehana, Nasti, Kinchana, nothing is there for me. Even if I take this thing, the most natural explanation that I get, right, is that if X does not know Y, X is different from Y. I need something else to tell me, look, X and Y are parts of each other.
Correct.
Or X is a part and Y is part of this thing, something like that.
Yeah.
And even in that case, X cannot be omniscient or Y cannot be omniscient. So this Shruti by itself is very clear indication of difference. Something else has to be has to be put on top of this to say, no, wait, they are all parts of the same guy.
Okay.
And Shruti, that is another point there.
Understood. Therefore, the thrust of your last few minutes conversation is not about what is Vishnu or omniscience of Vishnu, but it's more about from Shruti we are establishing multiplicity.
And also deficiencies in other devatas.
I'm sorry?
The people, whoever they are called here as Indra,
yes.
Whoever is called as Varuna,
correct.
Whoever is called as Vrata or Mitra or Aryama or Rudra,
yes.
They are different from Savitaram and from each other.
And they are of different potencies because so if I understand you correctly, you're trying to logically build up the concept of Taratamya, which is based on Vedic quotations.
Correct.
Okay. Understood.
So, and it continues like that. See here, it is very clearly says that, I put this thing Savitaram because Savitaram is not Surya here for the very same reason. The same Mitra and Aryama are also Surya only.
Correct.
Even if you take Mitra is a different type of Surya, Aditya, Aryama means sun. Okay. So therefore, sun cannot know sun does not make sense. Therefore, that is the reason why Acharya says, okay, Savitaram is a Savitru, is a smaller this thing of Prasavitru, which means that creator. Okay. And that inline anyway aligned to the rest of the city.
So sorry for interrupting. Can you give some reference for establishing Savitaram is a short form of Prasavitru? Where is that reference?
He says that thing in when explaining Gayatri Mantra and other places like that. Savitru Namaka Mandala Madhyavarti. And there is another Shruti that Jagatam. 1 minute. Jagata Prasuyate, something like that. There is another Shruti that comes there. From whom but I think your main this thing will be in the Rigbhashya only, where he has called this thing as Prasavitru.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So here, he gives many more such references, right? Where, for example, in this one, the mantra, the Rishi says this here, right? Whoever I wish to make, I will make. It's supposed to be Ambrani. Ambrani is, again, Sayana confuses that it's just one Rishiputri or something like that. But, whatever it is that she claims to have what do you call, she declares that she has so many powers that whoever she feels like making as Ugra, she will make. Whoever she feels like making as Brahma, she will make. And whoever a wise man, Sumedha, she will make that as a person as a wise man. So here again, these people are told to be under the control of these people. So they're obtaining that particular position, right, of being a Rudra or as being a Brahma is determined by her will to let them be. So therefore, the Shrutis indicate directly in telling you that this Ambrani is over this Ugra and Brahmana. And people say, this Ugra is not Rudra or something like that. But that is again, if you go through Shatapatha Brahmana and other places where Rudra's names are told, he's given almost, I think, 11 names by his own father, that is Brahma, and one of them is Ugra. And even Rudra, all these other names are given to him by Brahma because he cries, he shows that, I am not happy with my current situation.
Says that. Yeah.
But no, not Bhagavata also says that, but right now I am trying to show that, it is there in the Veda. Veda is more important, right?
Correct.
Because it is so-called secular or Vaishnava according to me at least, right? I mean, so yeah, also this line here, right? Asya devasya milusho vayare Vishno reshasya prabhrute havirbhihi videhi rudro rudriyam mahitvam yasishtam vartir ashvina virapat. So here the sage is basically telling, he's appealing to Ashwini devatas to worship Vishnu because it is of that Vishnu's, who basically fulfills his devotees' wishes. Worshipping such Vishnu by oblations in the Havis, by inputting oblations and all those things, Rudra got his Rudriya Mahitva. Rudra is a very high person, right? I mean, he controls our Ahankara. He is like he is the refuge of all other deities. And unless he kind of agrees to say that, okay, I will let you go of, I will not make your Ahankara stick to you, right? You will start seeing the dependency, your own dependency on Vishnu. We will not be able to get that Dvaita Jnana very clearly. Dvaita Jnana is very difficult. Bheda Jnana is much more tougher. It's much tougher than what people think it to be, right? I mean, at least the realization part of it. What I am like.
This is, in my view, talking on both sides of the table. Biggest argument which is pushed against Advaita is to say Dvaita Anubhava is very easy, what we see everywhere. Advaita is artificial, is what you argue. So you cannot choose different argument for the same concept, right? Either you agree there or you agree here. You can't do both.
I will tell you how we are doing that differently. So when we say Dvaita Anubhava is difference, we are talking about the differences from me and these objects around me and people around me and things like that, right? So the Jiva Bheda, Jiva Jada Bheda is obvious there, or Bheda Jada Bheda, and Jiva Bheda is also kind of given to us in experience. And so Advaita is doesn't have any solid reason to say that all of that is illusory. That is our argument there. The other thing is that when it comes to Ishvara, he is known to us only through Shruti. And while the Shruti tells us that there is difference between me and Ishvara, and our own experience says that thing, our own experience also is for most of the time we have these notions of independence. So therefore the Shruti tells that Ishikat Munjariva, something like that. It says that Kathopanishad says that there are two kind of grass blades that are like intermingled like this. There are two different grass types. And so to pull this thing apart is difficult act. So therefore Bheda Jnana is not that easy also. It is because, I mean, you will say it, but to be able to actually realize that needs his grace. That is the idea. Anyway, so coming back here, so again, this one talks about Rudra obtaining his greatness after worshipping Vishnu. There are other such quotes. I will, Vayu Jivottama is also there. So now when we say Vayu Jivottama, we looked at three things so far, right? One is Vishnu is Sarvottama. Lakshmi is the one who determines who can be Rudra, who can be Brahma. So she is immediately after him. Brahma is told to be the person who rules over everything that is born. And it is there in the Shruti also. So three levels are there. Vayu is also at the same level as Brahma. That is also, this is one of the other Shrutis, which tells us that Samhita Saptakshitaya Upatishtante. Okay, which means that these seven Kshiti Devatas or Akshaya Devatas, basically they worship him, right? All the seven deities, right? They sit around in our eye. They basically worship Vayu, who is present over there. Okay, and one of them is Rudra. One of the seven people is Rudra. Another one is Indra. Okay, another one is Agni. Another one is Aditya. So basically, Vayu's worship, and this is told in the Shruti itself. The same Brihadaranyaka also tells, right? Anastamita Devata Yadvayuhu. Vayu's knowledge does not have a setting. Other Devatas' knowledge, it has on and off, not Vayu's. So when you put all these Shrutis together, you know that Vayu is not what you call same as Vishnu. He is at a much lower level. That is because again his birth is also talked about in the Shat Prashna Upanishad and other places. But at the same time, he is much superior to Rudra. He is much superior to Indra, Aditya, Agni, and all these people. Therefore, you must admit that Vayu is also the at same level or definitely around Brahmas, this thing. So whatever the main highlight I wanted to put there is that Vayu Jivatmattva is also told in the Shruti itself for us. Again, there are two types of Vayus for us. One who is the Mukhya Vayu, another one who is the Konadhipati, who is the preceding deity for the south, in the northwestern corner. Okay, so that is different. And for example, in Kenopanishad, right, Vayu is not able to blow the grass away. Now, if you take that Vayu and the Vayu that is told in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, right, whose knowledge never sets, who is always who is free of all delusion, you will not be able to quote these things. So the same Vayu cannot be both free from delusion and also be subject to delusion. So which means that there are two different Vayus, right? And so we use this kind of logic to be able to basically put up this entire Taratamya chart, and all of that is derived from these different Sadagamas only. Now, let me very clearly, and there are other places also here. I mean, here in this case, it is not Vayu, it is Indra, who is told to be the progenitor of Surya, Ushas, and Varuna, right? And in this case, the Vayu is told to be the person who will become Brahma. See, Esha Havai Brahma, who Yoyavam Pavate, one who purifies, one who flows, right? And therefore, this Vayu, this Brahma, who is going to become the Brahma, that is the only way you can interpret that. He is the one, tam eta panchadevata parimbriyante. After basically they, they lose their sharira, they die on his hands. Okay, he destroys them. Who are those people? Vidyut, Vrishtis, Chandrama, Aditya, Agni. So again, see here, right? I mean, so there is again, X is supposed to be in control of A, B, C, D, E. So which means that X is superior to A, B, C, D, E. So these are and there are many such references that Acharya gives. Other people basically they look at them as this is some. I mean they are all meant to be stuti, right? I mean you want to extol X, you will talk about X as being superior to everybody else. You want to extol Y. That's what Appaya Dikshita says. He says there is this Nahi Ninda Nyaya, right? He tries to put that thing in the Purana, but basically he's blatantly admitting that it will preach falsehood, right? If I'm saying X is superior to ABC, just because I want to please X, I want to extol X, and in some other context, it will say, what, A is superior to X, which is the exact converse, because I want to please that thing, which means that this is just a glib liar, that's all. Shruti is a glib liar, that's all he's making out it to be. So therefore, we do not agree with that particular nyaya here in this context.
Can I hold on? Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Because you just make a leap in my view.
I think
Appaya Diksha says Shruti is lying. He is making a reference to Puranas. Each Purana story propagating something. Puranas are not treated as Shrutis, at least by Advaitis. Advaitis may do it. Puranas are the same level of credibility like Shrutis in Advaita Parampara. Therefore, from that point of view, he is saying that each Purana is specifically done as a part of glorifying the deity of your choice. It
Yeah,
does
but
not. That's
the
right.
charge still applies, sir. Because then, okay, let's say it is not to the Veda, it is then to Veda Vyasa that he is making that allegation. That Veda Vyasa is a clip liar, that's all it makes.
Not necessarily. That is an implication you are driving.
No, I
Okay,
mean, isn't that the
no,
obvious thing?
I will explain. I will explain.
I'll ask a small question. So if I
Correct.
am praising the person, whoever is in front of me,
Yes.
and even if I'm contradicting myself is in all other contexts,
Yes.
basically it's like, I am, whoever is in front of me, I will try to praise them. And that makes me either, what do you call, emotionally or whatever weak person, rather than a person who has his own convictions in place.
No, it is a wrong. It is an inference you want to make because you already set up something in mind. So you're
Okay.
twisting the meaning of everything. I will explain why. So let us
Okay.
say I am the father. I have 3 children.
Okay.
Now each child, they're not same, right? Some of them more successful, some of them less successful, some of them, for whatever reason, in any aspect, it may not be in same thing, but different things they are successful, different they are failure. So when some child is crying that, then I try to praise it, say, no, you better than ABC, other children, because you can run faster. Yeah, you may be poor in other things. So it does not make father is lying.
Yeah.
He's trying
No,
to
because he is
address,
not lying.
hold on. He is trying to address an emotional need of a child in a particular context. That is how you should take.
Right.
So the Dvaitis make a terrible mistake in jumping
Oh,
to
1 minute, sir. Before
lying.
concluding that, let's look at one more small point there, right?
Yes.
So basically, what you're saying is that these gods, Vishnu, Rudra, Shiva, I mean, Skanda, all these kids who need to be emotionally, mollified and massaged by people like us, so that they don't get offended, and so that they do their work and they basically bless us.
Again, you're making a mistake. We are not ordinary people like us are not saying. You brought in Vedavyasa who wrote the Puranas according to you, right?
Exactly.
So
the thing,
Vedavyasa is trying to address the specific needs
of whose?
of human beings who tend to have a specific liking to a specific God. Therefore,
Very good.
I'm talking about Vedavyasa as the parent.
No. That is different from the example you gave. So if Vedavyasa is telling X, look, you like Vishnu, therefore I will tell you Vishnu is supreme and Rudra is inferior to you. And he is telling, the same Vedavyasa is telling another Y, look, you like Rudra more, therefore I will say Rudra is supreme to you. He's still lying.
No, he is not. First of all, actually speaking, the credibilities of Puranas are not as much as credibility of Srutis.
We'll come to
The
that
context
thing.
of their conviction, right? You cannot take your conviction and argue on Advaita.
No, 1 minute. The position that Puranas are not at the same level is only theoretical, even for Advaitins. Okay, I mean, for us, what you are saying is true for us. I don't mind discarding Shiva Purana or Linga Purana or something like that. I don't mind telling. I actually tell that it is not Sadagama. Advaitins are not going to say that. They are playing it politically correct, right? So now, what you need to be able to tell is that, so your position, right, is that it is meant for different peoples with different tastes, still makes the teller a liar.
No.
I mean, see, there is no way to get over
this argument is very much like your judgment first, trial later. You're prefixed on something.
No. Let's say, I'm not talking about whether Vishnu is Sarvottama or whether, what do you call, Shiva is Sarvottama. We'll come to that part later, but this particular thing is independent of that. If X is, if I tell A is greater than B in one situation, okay, or to one person, and to another person I tell B is greater than A, independent of what my situation is, I am a liar at least to one of them, if not both.
No, you're addressing specific needs of specific segment, number one.
Yeah, I may be, but still one of them is a lie.
Not a lie.
At least one.
Let me continue. But that is why Advaitins rightly argue, in my opinion, when you get to the maturity level of understanding these kind of, what should I say, contradictory kind of conclusions you lead to, they say treat Puranas as just some story told to make something. Don't take it
No,
too
no, sir,
seriously.
that is one more wrong thing actually. Advaitas do take that Purana is one of the Chaturdasha Vidya sthanas.
That
Okay.
is different. That
No,
is
no.
different.
So there is what do you call? It is not to be discarded, or it is not to be undermined or anything like that. I mean, but let's say even if you want to do that, even let's say you want to still do that thing. Okay. So you have to admit that one of the Puranas or both of the Puranas are wrong.
All Puranas are wrong.
It is a logical conclusion. There is, I mean, there is no escape from that. We
There
may try
is.
to
No, no,
politically
there is.
sugarcoat it in many ways.
There is. All Puranas are wrong is the point.
So that is not an Advaitic position at all. And that is again opposed to the Shruti, Chandogya Upanishad, which says, Itihasa Puranam Vedanam Panchamo Vedaha. It says that thing, and it is told not just in one Chandogya, it is told in multiple places. Again, within Chandogya, in another place also it is told. It comes in Brihadaranyaka also. So Purana is not undermined by, at least by Shruti, and therefore not by us. In fact, I'll tell you, Dvaitins have a way to even accept Shiva Purana, okay, as referring to Vishnu, or there are other ways in which as if it is describing the thought process of a Shaivite, right? This is Darshana Bhasha, that's what we say. Sorry. And we have these different ways in which we can explain that. But at the end of it, Puranas and all these things, whatever we have classified as Sadagamas, few of these things, we say that it has a uniform, unitary purpose. That is Samanyat. We say that much, we have admit that thing. But my this thing is that so we don't we don't hide under political correctness. We are more under logical correctness is what I think we try to go to. Anyway, let's come to the conclusion. I wanted to do one more thing after this. So basically, I gave some quotes based on the Taratamya within the Vedas. So the next one that I want to talk about is that, so in Tattva Sankhya Acharya mentions this. Same thing is told in Tattva Viveka also. Vishnu is Sarvottama, Lakshmi, Lakshmi, Srischate Lakshmischcha Patnyau, that's what the Shruti says. He is also a Nityam Mukta Chetana. And everybody else is subject to pain or, unhappiness misery at one point of time or the other. Ato Anyadartam, that's what the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. Anything other than Vishnu is, or his consort is basically subject to misery. So we do not admit of the Vishishtadvaitic theory or that there is Nitya Suri, like the Garuda or Sesha, who are beyond misery and things like that, because they are also subject to misery, and that's what the Shruti is telling us. We also talk about these different types of jivas, and that is again based on other Shrutis. One is which is very common, right? Which is this is the Gita thing. De Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sasvabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Nam Shrunu. Where he says that Dehin is the person, the embodied jiva. His Svabhava itself has this Shraddha. Very important. It is not an accidental attribute imposed on the jiva. It is inherent, intrinsic to that particular jiva, the dehin, the embodied. Yeah. It is not something that is it is coming because of the influence of the deha. Yeah. It is inbuilt, it is intrinsic. It is, jivaness and this particular shraddhaness are, they are not just inseparable. They are like, it is like mangoness and sweetness. They are like inherent or intrinsic to the same jiva. And the Paramatma says there are three types of Shraddha: Satviki, Rajasi, and Tamasi. So the division of the jivas, right, as Mukti Yogyas and Nitya Baddha and Tamo Yogya is something that falls in line with this. We will talk about the Tamo Yogya jivas and whether how the Madhva philosophy is different from others based on this particular thing, and what are the evidences for that in the next session.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Very good. So what you're building up now is to establish the differences are not only real as we see it, they also have a sanction in Shrutis. That's what first you established. And then you're trying to establish, and logically you traverse that path. Differences not only exist, there is a gradation as well, inherent gradation as well. And
Right.
there is a Shruti Pramana for that is essentially the takeaway from today's conversation. So,
If I may just add one small point, right? So next, what we will do is, once I will give why, we'll have a little conversation around, brief conversation around this Tamo Yogya Jiva, and then after that we will talk about some two things which talk about non-difference in moksha. That's how people conceive them, like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. We will talk about how Acharya's take is different on that. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Yatra hi Dvaitam iva bhavati, Prapancho yadi vidyata, some of these very predominant shrutis. So we'll get a little technical there, but it will also give us some understanding of how Acharya interprets shruti there. And then we will talk about, we will say that that will broadly establish the basic ontology for us. Then we will talk about, what is the meaning of all this in our day-to-day life. What should be the upasana? That also should again come from the Shruti.
yes,
Right? It cannot come from our own opinions, right? It has to be sanctioned by the scripture. So based on that, we will talk about what is the upasana and then the phala, because that is how the scheme of even Brahma Sutras are.
okay.
Right? So that is the plan. Basically, I hope that in another few sessions, we will basically cover the entire gamut to some extent at least.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Namaskara. Like I said, next Sunday morning, anyway, we are doing once or 2 weeks only, so that's okay. Next Sunday morning, I'm taking a flight to India. So subsequent Sunday, depending upon your, availability, either we can do in person or through the same Skype from Bangalore. Okay.
Sure, sir.
So, namaskar.
Namaskar. Krishna Arpanastu.